Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrice. I am the business partner for Team 3, and I'm going to be doing the introduction for our Navigating Business Operations Center process for new employees today. We wanted to thank everyone for joining and then also welcome all of the new employees to UCA&R. So today, we're going to go over the introduction and then also our agenda. I'll discuss the BOC website with everyone, and then also we'll have someone from payroll discuss their portion. We'll touch on topics in accounting and reporting, and then also any purchasing and fund management. We'll touch on these aspects as well. At the end of the presentation, there will be a Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can hold them until then, or you can put them in the chat as well. So this is our Business Operations Center org chart. This just shows a list of everyone in our department and then our roles. So we do report to Jennifer Bungie. She is the vice president, and then she also does finance and capital planning. Then our director is Sue Lynn. She is out on medical leave. So we have Tracy Roman, who is the associate director, and she oversees all of the business partners and then all of the teams for our department. Okay, and then here we have our team assignments. So there's a total of 6 teams within the BOC. This just shows each of our counties that we work with. In total, there are about 80 counties that we help and oversee. Teams 1 through 4, and then team 6 work with counties on the map, and then team 5 supports administrative and statewide program units. And then if you do need to contact anyone in any of these departments, you can find our business department team assignments. Later, I will show where this will be on our website, but here's all of the contact information, and then each of the counties, each team assists. Okay, so for the BOC website, you can go to Google and just put in UCANR BOC, and then it should be the first link that shows on there. So once you click that, you'll be able to see our website and then all of the resources we have there. And then also here you'll see on our homepage, there's an option where you click contact us and it'll give you all of the emails. You can see the org chart that we recently reviewed, and then any services that we provide, you can see those there, and then also information on future office hours. Okay, so this is more detail of our homepage. So you have the org chart, our business partner directory, the map as shown previously, and then a calendar with any training dates and deadlines. Our services, these are the tabs or options you'll see. If you click on them, they'll give you more information. And then an email for BOC support, which is just a general email box. But if you have anything in specific to your county, then you can reach out to the team email. And then if you want, you can read up on our About Us here, and then any of the contact of the teams will be below as well. So fund management, you can go here for any forms, if you need any instructions or any reminders of how to do any check reimbursements or check requests. If you want to get more information on reviewing a ledger, any tips or references will be under this tab. So here we just try to detail out or provide a reference or a key for any shortcuts to help you with navigating anything. Purchasing tab, this will show a list of common terms, our policy summary, any procedures we have, forms and checklists will be here as well. So if you need to purchase anything, you can review this tab and it will basically give you a guideline on how to proceed with your purchases or any forms that needs to be included with your purchases. Okay, and then to access the A&R policy and procedure manual, you'll just go under resources and programs, and then this will give you more information on any policy that you want to refresh or you need to know more about. And then for our BOC forms and instructions, we do have them listed out here. So if you just know the title of the form you're looking for, you can use the alphabetical directory here, and it'll take you directly to the portion of the page that you're looking for. Okay. And then any of our trainings, any recorded trainings we do, or any of our recorded meetings, we do post on our website as well. So you can go under the training, outreach, and video recordings. And here you'll see video trainings, in-person opportunities, or virtual opportunities. You can also see the link here. All of these slides will be sent out to everyone later this week. So if you're not on the website, you can go through this to pull any of this information as well. So we also have biweekly, monthly, and quarterly trainings and outreach that we do. So on the website, it will show you everything that we do. Whether it's biweekly, we have our office hours. So these are on the second and fourth Thursdays of every month from 10 to 11. We also have an office managers and business partner teams meeting. So we do send out a link for those, and this will go to all office managers or A&R administrative staff. Monthly, we do county and area director meetings. We do a monthly business partner meeting, and then also we do the new employee meetings every first Tuesday of the month from 9:30 to 11:30. Quarterly, there is a business partner meeting, and then occasionally we do on-site visits. So if those are scheduled, the county will be notified. And next we have travel, entertainment, and relocation. So if you have any questions or need help with submitting any mileage or meal incidentals when you're doing your purchasing or using your travel card, you can use this portion of our website and it'll give you more information on frequently asked questions regarding that. And BOC resources, you can use this page for helpful links. So we'll have a link to Aggie Enterprise, Aggie Expense, our website, any of the BOC forms, any frequently asked questions regarding purchasing, and then also the A&R portal. And then there is an employee welcome page that you are recommended to go look at and review as it will help you with moving forward with your new employment. And then we do have a collaborative tools group. So county directors, office manager groups, any office manager, office staff group, you can join these groups. If there's any group that you would like to be created, you can contact BOC support to arrange that. And then again, we do have office hours every second and fourth Thursday of every month, 10 to 11 on Zoom. The link can be found on our website as well. And anyone is welcome to join if they have any questions that they can't find the answer to on our website. You can come to this office hours and speak to anyone from any of the teams. And then now we'll have someone from payroll, Anne Marie Scott. She'll discuss payroll with everyone.
Hello, everybody. I am trying to get my video on, but for some reason there we go. See if it stays. Hi, everybody. Um, doesn't look like we have a lot of new people here on the call, but um, just as a reminder of who we are, um, I am the payroll director for UCANR, and this is our payroll team. So myself I'm the director, Anne Marie Scott. Letty Barba is our senior analyst, and Chand is another analyst, and then Raj Dins is our primary transactor. And so I appreciate the BOC in allowing us to join this training for you. We are technically not part of the BOC, but we work very, very closely with the BOC. And so we appreciate being able to introduce ourselves again to the BOC clients. So we are technically under the Office of the Controller. And the best way to contact us, if you have any questions or if any employees come to you with questions about their pay or their timesheets, you want to reach out to us at anrpayroll@ucanr.edu. That's the quickest way to reach one of us. All four of us monitor that inbox. So again, that's the fastest way to reach us. Next slide, please. Okay, what do we do? We have a mission. Our team mission is to provide excellent customer service to all UCA and our employees. And that means that we don't just do the payroll for the counties, for the UCCE's population. We provide our services to every UCA and our employee. And we're here to support you and understand your pay, and to answer any questions you or the employee may have. Um, and our last goal is to ensure accurate and timely pay for all UCA and our employees. That is our primary mission. Next slide, please. And how can we help? The things that we can do to assist is if a person is wondering where their paycheck is. They haven't set up direct deposit yet, and so they have a paper check being mailed to their home. They can't find it. What the best way to resolve that is to contact us at A&R Payroll at ucanr.edu, and we can help track it down. If somebody's not able to enter time on their timesheet, contact us and we'll troubleshoot and get it resolved. The timesheets are in the system that we refer to as TRS. If there needs to be an adjustment to the hours on a prior timesheet that's already been submitted, again, contact us and we will assist with returning that for adjustment. And again, sometimes it's a very short window, so Hello, I'm sorry. My internet dropped me. Shall I keep going?
Yes, please do, Anne Marie.
Okay. I'm so sorry about that. My internet just completely shut my Zoom down. Um,
That's okay.
That's okay. So if anybody needs to update their tax withholding, contact us and we'll show you where to make those changes. We cannot make them for an employee, but we can show them how to do it and how to get in there. If they have questions about their W-2, you want to contact us and we'll explain how the amounts reported were calculated. And if there's a question about vacation or sick accruals, reach out to us and we'll review the accruals for accuracy. And if there needs to be an adjustment, we'll work on your behalf with uh, the UC Path Center. All right. Next slide, please. Okay. So I do also want to say that the UC Path system is the payroll calculating system. They are not there to answer a lot of the questions that employees may have about their pay. And so questions can be submitted to the UC Path customer service line, but they are serving the entire UC population. So by the time they can get to it and respond, and quite often usually refer the employee back to us anyway, it's always better to just reach out to us first. And if we need to um, uh, pull in the Path Center, we can do so on an employee's behalf. But so regarding the timekeeping system, again, it is referred to as TRS, Time Reporting System. It is the system in which employees and supervisors report and approve time worked. Um, who uses TRS? All UCA and our monthly and biweekly employees. This is the direct URL for TRS. It does say UC Davis because we're still using the UC Davis TRS instance, but we have our own subsection for UC A&R. There are some deadlines that Davis has published um, as to when the timesheets need to be completed and submitted and approved. We are working on getting that updated on our UCA and our payroll page. So that's coming soon. And there are some resources that are also, we're going to be putting our own versions on our own website, but there are some how-to guides for how an employee, basic guides about how an employee enters their time. And so, because it's different for biweekly employees and monthly employees. So Davis does have these guides available at this point. And next slide, please. All right, and then these are the calendars, the payroll calendars. These are from last year, but there are uh, calendars published for 2026. And again, we're getting those up on our website. But the basic, this is just to illustrate how the payroll calendars work. So for biweekly employees, timesheets are submitted every 2 weeks. Um, with the payday following on the second Wednesday after the end of the pay period. And in order for an biweekly hourly employee to be paid, a timesheet must be submitted. Now, monthly timesheets are submitted in arrears, meaning they are submitted in the first week following the close of the month. So they are used only to report vacation, sick, and like jury duty, that sort of thing. That is not the monthly salary people do not report hours worked, and so again, they only report their vacation and sick usage so that they can have that taken out of their accrued balances. They are monthly salary people are paid automatically their salary, regardless of whether a timesheet is submitted, but they do still need to submit the timesheets. And that's a part of a process that um, uh, should be explained between the supervisor and the employee. Um, and are there any questions? All right, doesn't sound like it. I think that's it for us. Again, I apologize for dropping. And again, if you have any questions that come up after the fact, please either reach out to A&R Payroll at our group email, or you can also reach out to me directly at Scott, ASCOTT, at ucanr.edu. And I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm going to be doing the Aggie expense section of this. And my name is Kelly and I am the business partner with Team 4. In a nutshell, Aggie expense is where you will go to submit your travel requests, P card reconciliations, get or sign up for a P card and a travel card, expense reports, all those kind of things. So that's Aggie expense is your main domain for that. And let's see. First part of this is we will go over your Aggie expense profile as well as banking information. Setting up your profile and your banking information is probably the most important part of this because that's how you will get reimbursed. If you don't have your right information in there, bank account, that kind of a thing, then getting reimbursed will be pretty difficult. Next slide. Okay, so to update your profile settings or to your banking information, when you're in Aggie Enterprise, you would go to your profile settings, which are underneath your name, and then that little circle there. Click on profile settings, and then that's where you enter in all your banking information. And this, again, is where you will get your direct deposit when you get reimbursed for your travel expenses, your P card expenses, etc. Next slide. When you are setting up your settings, everything is available on the left. And again, the information and the banking information. You definitely need to make sure that all of this is complete. You can't get your reimbursements without it being complete. If there is an error, like it's important notice error right there, or if things are not complete, you won't get your direct deposit. Instead, what will happen is you will get a paper check mailed to the address on file. And if you've moved recently or something like that, definitely make sure the address on file is correct in here. And a paper check, just like anything else, probably takes longer, especially since it has to go through a couple different systems. So making sure all those settings are up to date and correct will make it much quicker to get your reimbursements. Next. Again, we went over the bank deposit information. You may use a different bank account for expense reimbursements versus what you use for payroll. So it doesn't have to be the same if bank account, if you do your banking differently, things like that. It can be whatever bank account. Direct deposit is not available for non-employee travelers and is not available for cash advance requests. Next. This is to set up a delegate for your Aggie expense reports. A delegate is somebody that you can assign to approve or not approve. We do the approving to check over your expense reports, to kind kind of do a pre-approval, if you will. And that can be a supervisor or a manager, somebody else within your department. And again, you can access that on the left side of your account where it says expense settings and then expense delegates. You can check the little blue block boxes to give them different kinds of approval. And that's how you set up that to add in like a supervisor or manager or something like that. Next. This is your personal car registration. So if you are going to be driving around your personal car for work purposes, you put in all the information here and make sure that is all correct and up to date. Your vehicle ID is how you want to identify your vehicle. So you could say, I don't know, Kelly's Tahoe. That's what I drive. Probably a good idea is maybe to put your name and the kind of car. You should also choose standard as your vehicle type. You only need to check preferred if you have more than one vehicle. So standard is the way to go for that. Next. Let's see. This page is just another area where you can go to make sure all your personal information is correct. Here, like it says, you can put in your home address, work address, contact info, any other pertinent, important information to make sure that your requests and your car preferences, hotel preferences, et cetera, are all correct and up to date in the system to make sure everything flows correctly and your reimbursements are all correct and all that kind of a thing. Next. The driver safety training is a course required by UC Davis Injury and Illness Prevention Program. It is required for staff and faculty who drive on university business, whether in a personal vehicle, county-owned or lease, a rental, a UCD, or a UC-owned vehicle. This training goes over UC Davis policies and procedures, the UC Business Bulletin G46, obviously always wear your seatbelt. So if you're, a researcher doing research out on the field and are either have your own vehicle, you're using an A&R truck or a county truck or something like that, definitely have to have this driver safety training course complete where you get in the vehicle. Next. Let's see. Policy BFB G28 goes over the UCOP travel regulations. There's also A&R Risk Services automobile liability insurance. I believe that's through A&R, and minimum requirements are $50,000. Personal injury for one person, 100,000, two or more people, 50,000 damage. Regular use for a vehicle needs to be more than 4 trips per calendar month, totaling at least 300 miles. Next page. Okay, now we are going to go over the chart of accounts, segmenter and finjector segment. So this is chart of accounts is our language, if you will, it's essentially like a bank account. It's exactly how you use your bank account with your normal bank, with your account number and your routing number. However, to make life complicated, ours are just much longer. And so there's lots of, or several, I should say, different segments within a chart of account. And you hear us refer to that as chart string. You might see it abbreviated as CCOA. Also, some people just refer to it as their account. So kind of different uses to the chart of accounts, but essentially, in essence, it's just a very long bank account number that you will need when filling out your expense reports, not approving, but signing up for your travel card or your P card, when making other purchases, if you are a PI or a researcher, office manager, whatever your position is, these chart of accounts, these chart strings is what will tell us and tell the system where the money is going to, whether it's are not going to. If it's an expense, it'll say what account needs the money needs to come from, what's being expensed. If it is money coming in, revenue, like from a Master Gardener plant sale or something like that, chart strings will tell us where the money needs to go to. So where the bank account, essentially the account needs to go to. Again, there's several different like sections, parts to these chart strings. The first part is 3310. It'll always be 3310 for UCANR. That's the entity. Next would be the fund number. That's I think it's 4 digits. Might be more than 4, could be 5. The fund segment identifies the funding source. So that would tell us like, is it an expense? Or where is it going? Like, is it going to a 4-H account? Is it going to a Master Gardener account? Is it going to a gift account? Is it going to an income account? So that next, after the 3310, the next set of numbers tells us where the money is going or coming from. The next set of numbers, which is 7 numbers, is the financial department. So that identifies Fresno or Madera or Solano County, Yolo County, and it could identify also the rec centers. So that financial department just identifies the organization. Next is the natural account, or you might just hear it called the account number. This identifies whether it's revenue, whether it's expense, whether it's a recharge, a transfer, asset, liability, net position. So that tells us more like exactly what the actual thing is. Again, is it an expense? Is it revenue? Net position, things like that. Next, after that is 2 little numbers. That's the purpose. That's the functional classification. And it helps classify revenue and kind of reflecting the mission of the university or ANR, gives it just a little bit more purpose. After that, we have program. Sometimes you will see this kind of like as just, I think 3 zeros. Sometimes there's a program number, sometimes there's not. It just kind of depends. But when we get to the project, which is next after that, the project number is probably the one that we use the most out of everything. Obviously, the entity, the fund, the financial department, the account, those are really important. But the project number is what helps identify projects within a grant, within an award, within the county. It helps separate the different county accounts. So you'll hear the term project number referenced constantly, all the time, continuously. And that is like the main number that you want to remember and always have access to. So if you remember anything out of this, the project number, if you need help looking up an account or anything, always start with that project number. Next slide. Okay, so now Segmentor and Finjector are 2 ways that you can look up those chart of accounts, because it's a lot of numbers and it's hard to remember all those charts of accounts. I definitely can't. So Segmentor and Finjector are 2 tools where you can definitely want to bookmark these. They just make it really, really easy to look up and check on those accounts and make sure that you're using the right accounts, chart strings, and the correct different parts to those chart strings. Next. Okay, segmenter is where you can put in just a little portion of the chart string. For example, you can put in, if you're looking up I think this is looking up the geo ones, but you put in all the different parts of the chart string and then validate it or click the validate button, and it'll tell you if it is validated. And validated means it's within, if it's a grant, for example, if it's within the grant dates, like if a grant has expired, then it'll show an error and say that it's not expired. I mean, that it is expired. Um, if it validates in segmenter, it'll say green and it'll say validated. Then you can use that chart string for expenses and things. If it comes up with an error, then you cannot use it and the system will not let you use that chart string. Next. This is just going back over kind of examples of validated. On the left, you see, put in all the little numbers and then check mark at the bottom means validated. Where can you find the chart lookup tool? I think when these slides are sent to you, you'll be able to just click on the PowerPoint. And then it's also on our website, I believe. Elizabeth might be able to add more to that chat box. And then if it does not validate, then it comes up with this big red arrow on the bottom, and then it tells you why it didn't validate. Next. For the PPM, that's a little bit easier. All you have to do is type the project number into the project box. Everything else auto-populates for you. Same thing, click that validate chart string, and then it will have a little check box to say it's valid, or if some part of it is not valid, then it will show up as red. You can also, for a PPM example, you put in the project number and then where it says task, two spots underneath project where it says task, you will be able to put in the different task numbers for that project, because most projects have a lot of different task numbers, especially if they're county projects or things like that. So you'll be able to check on the different task numbers also to make sure that they all validate correctly. Next slide. Injector is another way for you to look up the different chart strings, and then you can also see who is associated with these chart strings, whether it's an advisor, which county. It's kind of like a folder system, for lack of a better term. So you can type in a part of the chart string, like if you could type in the project number, and then that'll pop up and it'll give you more detail about that particular project. It'll give you the whole chart string. It'll tell you just which county it's associated with, the advisor, any other pertinent information. So that's a good way to look up if you need to know more than just the actual number. So segmenter is good for looking up the actual just chart string, just the numbers, and to make sure it's valid. And Finjector gives you more of an in-depth look at that particular chart string. Next. And again, these links will be, you'll be able to access them on the slides when they're sent to you. Next. This is an example of within Finjector when you type in a chart string, or you can see the kind of teams that you've been assigned to, depending on your county, things like that. Some chart strings kind of go across multiple PIs, researchers, or multiple counties. So that kind of helps you see a more in-depth view of how a chart string can cross across different people, different counties, that kind of thing. Next. This is just another example of when you type in that chart string into Injector, the kind of details that you get. Definitely more than just numbers. Next. Okay, now we're going to talk about Cognos. Cognos is a report that it takes the information from both Aggie Enterprise, which is where expenses post and happen, and UC Path, which is where all the payroll posts and records and takes the information from both of those places and puts it into one report. So you can easily see payroll information, payroll history, which chart strings payroll is being posted to, and lots of other information. Next. How you access these Cognos reports is you go to your Aggie Enterprise dashboard. You go on the top, the little tab thingies, you go all the way to the far right. It's the very one on the end, and it's Others. And then underneath Others, you have Reporting Dashboard. You would click that. It'll take you to this second page, which is kind of underneath here. And you can see on the far right, or second to the right, you have the Cognos little square there. And that gives you the couple different reports that you can run that have payroll information. And they've also updated it now. It didn't used to be this way, but they've updated it to include oh my gosh, brain, like transaction listing report too. So you can run that one as well. Cognos is also a faster way to run reports. If you run reports through Aggie Enterprise, it can often be, especially if they're really big and have a lot of detail, it can be really slow and take like several minutes to run reports, where the Cognos ones, they run a lot faster. Next slide. When you click on, or when you go into Cognos, the home button at the top left corner gives you access to all the different reports that you can run. Next. A 339 payroll report is where you will get all your payroll data, and you can run either the historical one, which is prior to January 1st, 2024, or you can do the historical payroll, the distribution one, which is January 1st, 2024 through current. And again, these 339 reports within Cognos gives you all the payroll data. So you can see somebody's payroll, monthly, biweekly, whatever it might be, the percentages of payroll, because a lot of times all the little bits of payroll is going to different accounts, especially if it's one person, for example, spread across several projects or several awards. You can see all the different, you can search it by just that person, and you can see all the different directions their payroll is going and coming from, and the different accounts they're being paid from. This really helps, especially when it comes to doing payroll transfer requests or finalizing invoices when an award ends. A lot of this information is very valuable. Next. A glide report within Cognos is very similar to the transaction listing report, expense report. It just lets you see in more detail expenditures. It gives you more information. It's not quite just a simple glance, but it just gives you a better way to kind of track and figure out exactly what certain expenses are. So that's where a glide report is really helpful. Next. Again, this is glide report. And let's see, you need to choose all UCD costs. Anything with the little asterisk is required data. So you need to make sure all those little boxes are filled out. Otherwise, when you press submit at the end, at the bottom, it won't go through. And then if you want to look up information from Concur, which is essentially Aggie expense data, you need to click on the right, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the sixth square here that says journal source. That's where you can choose Concur and look up a lot more detailed expenditures that way. Next slide. When you're looking for something in a glide report, the best, easiest way to run that glide report is to put in the PPM, the project number. And that's that. When we were talking about the chart strings, the project number is like your main number that you need to know. Easiest way is just to search through that using that number. Next slide. Once you have pressed submit and you want to run your report, or it'll be running, I should say, you want to export it with Excel data. If you choose the just Excel option there, it exports to Excel. It looks nice and pretty, but you can't like filter it and you can't search through it. It's weird. I don't know why. So you always want to choose Excel data because that will give you basically the raw data and it won't be sorted or anything like that. And then you can filter it in Excel and manipulate things if you need to or move things around. It's just a lot easier to search that way. And the system hasn't already pre-filtered things out and you get all the raw data. Next. This is an example of what the data comes out when you choose the Excel data tab option. Next page. Okay, purchasing card and travel card. This kind of links back to Aggie expense. This is where you'll go to sign up for your P card and your travel card. Actually, it all links back together because when you fill out your bank account in Aggie Expense and put in all that information, you use your P card and your travel card. Then if you put all your correct information in, bank account, etc., you'll get your reimbursement. So this is all how it kind of loops back together. When you want to sign up for your P card and your travel card, you'll need this link. Next slide. You'll also have to take a mandatory training, and you would do this through the UC Learning hub here. Next page. P card and travel card applications. In Aggie Expense, you click on requests in the header section and then click on create new request. In the request header, you would choose your UCD card program, select today's date and the date, which is the date of the application. Your employee ID is your employee ID is auto-populated by Aggie Expense. Card request name, give the request a name that fits the action requested. So for example, new travel card for Connie cardholder. For the card type, you choose the desired card type from the drop-down list. Request type, select the action requested. So this would be a new card application. Business purpose, enter the business reason the card is needed. So for example, a couple weeks ago, I went down to Fresno and needed a travel card. So I put travel card needed for mandatory traveling for business. And then you click create request and then click the add button, then select card type. So new travel card. Next page. This is just kind of going back over those steps. So you would on the left there request, and then you would click request, and then you can go back and look at this when you're filling out your traveler P card request, go back and you can reference this to make sure you're filling out everything correctly. Next page. So you would complete the required fields identified with an asterisk, allocate the accounts, and then click Save. Your chart string or chart of accounts information is on the next slide. Enter the delegation amounts if needed. We'll look at the next slide for that information. Ensure you have read the cardholder agreement. When the application is submitted, you are agreeing to the terms outlined in the cardholder agreement and that you are attesting you have read the document. You're going to attach the UC Learning Center training certificate of completion to the request header and submit the request for approval routing. The request will route to your financial department approver, then which is me, then the supply chain man if you're for Team 4, then the supply chain management's banking card services for processing. After the application is processed, you will receive a copy of the U.S. Bank cardholder agreement and a copy of the cardholder agreement with the information agreed to during the application process. This takes, so if you are traveling, next week, for example, you would need to, you may or may not get your travel card in time. I do know that we have, and probably need to update these slides, it's a pilot program. It's just starting, kind of like a electronic travel card, kind of like an Apple, what's it, Apple Card. So it's not a physical plastic card that you swipe or anything like that, but it's more of like an e-card that they can get to you within a couple days. Whereas this kind of card, and you still have to take the same trainings and things like that, but these travel card and P cards, they are a standard, plastic credit card that does come to you in the mail, and you can choose whether you want it to come to your house or to your desk, your office, whatever. Next slide. When you are putting in the information for your P card and your travel card, always for both of them, always make sure the entity is 3310, which is UC A&Rs. The fund number is 1320. You would put in your financial department. Default amount, travel card limits, that automatically sets as a default. So you need to change that. Default amounts for all card holders. Here's some of them that are listed below. So it just depends on what your job is. And then you would change, or your job position title, and then you would change those amounts. They set automatically as a default to, I think, a little bit higher. So you would change them. If you forget to change them, then when it routes to myself or the other business partners or supervisors, then we change them, depending on your job. Next slide. P card allowed purchases are published materials, office furniture up to $500, regulated utility payments like electricity, water, sewer, cell phone, conference registration only if no travel is involved, memberships, and you must attach the required forms, food for research, no catering or entertainment, repairs or services citing a purchase agreement or purchase order. Next page. Unallowable purchases, capital assets, so you can't go buy a new truck with your P card. Split purchases, so if you're out eating with a coworker, or that would be under travel, so never mind, just not split purchases. Food related to entertainment and events, repairs or services not citing a purchase agreement or purchase order. So if you have, for example, reoccurring maintenance on your company truck, have a purchase order in place in order to be able to use your P card to pay for those reoccurring services. travel, parking, and entertainment. That goes on your travel card. Software, unless purchase is against an existing purchase agreement. Rental of items, so tools, tables, chairs, equipment, porta potties that came up recently, unless against an existing purchase agreement. Purchase on eBay where payee can't be identified, and personal purchases, shipping, and things like shipping, use Aggie Ship. Next page. For your travel card, you are allowed to book lodging, airfare, car rentals, entertainment. So food and catering related to allowable entertainment events, meals, and incidentals. Conference registration or travel is allowed. So no virtual conferences, but for example, if you are traveling to Fresno for a work-related event conference, then you can use your travel card to book that. Unallowable purchases are non-travel and entertainment related expenses, personal travel. So you can't use your P card to book your personal airplane ticket, for example. Next page. Sales tax. Every P card transaction must have sales tax accounted for. Either the sales tax is paid to the merchant box is filled out or the tax exempt box is checked. If no sales tax was charged and it is not a tax exempt item, you would leave both options blank. Sales tax paid to the merchant would come directly off your invoice receipt for your vendor. Reminder, if you are getting a refund, this should be a negative number. Tax exempt, so you're not going to get reimbursed for tax. Tax exempt purchase is used only if the items purchased are tax exempt. Examples of tax exempt items are food, fuel, stamps, items received digitally. Items purchased from other states do not collect California sales tax and are not tax exempt unless it is normally a tax exempt item. Most out-of-state purchases, both options will be left blank. So best practice, if you placed an order with an out-of-state company that does not charge sales tax, add that as a comment. It will help with reducing the chance of a report being returned for incorrect sales tax reporting. Next. Okay, 10-minute break.
What is? Alrighty. So you're adding $600? Yeah, so we're just waiting while I'm trying to submit it. This is now 0.
Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. Is everybody back, ready to go? All right. Awesome. So my name is Caitlin Duwala. I'm the financial assistant for Team 1 here at the BOC, and I'm going to be going over this next to last few sections more about Aggie Enterprise, purchasing, best practices, things like that. We're going to be going over setting up your requisition preferences, how to request a purchase order, how to use the punch out system, when to do a non-PO check request, and how to look up certain things in Aggie Enterprise. Next slide. Ready for next slide. Okay, so we're just having a little bit of technical difficulties moving over the slide, but basically the next thing I'm going to be going over is setting up your requisition preferences. And the reason you're going to want to do this is if you're going to be doing any purchasing in the punch out section, punch out catalog, Amazon, CDWG, Fisher Scientific, we have a ton of punch outs, and I'll give you some examples of those. When you log into Aggie Enterprise, the first thing you're going to do is go over to the procurement tab, and then underneath you'll click on the cart that says purchase requisitions. That is going to take you to a new screen where in the top right, in the orange circle, you're going to see a preferences section. That is where you will click to get to the next section where you input the info. Ready for next slide? Sorry, I don't know if Elizabeth, if you, there you go. Thank you so much. So when you click preferences, this is what's going to pop up. If your requisitioning business unit is something different, you do want to make sure to change it to UCD, REQ, business unit. The requester, your name is just going to be there, and then your deliver to location is going to be your work office address. All of our ANR office addresses should be in there as an internal address. If you are looking for it and it is not there, please let us know. Reach out to your business partner team or submit an Aggie Enterprise help ticket and let them know, hey, my office address needs to be added. Destination type, you want to make sure that says expense. And then there is a section underneath to add your default accounts that you're going to be using to do purchasing. Unless you for sure will only ever be using one account to do purchasing, I don't suggest filling out this section because your suggested or favorites will override when you do any sort of purchasing. We do quite a lot of requisitions here at the BOC, so I definitely don't have mine filled out because it is changing all the time. So again, it's an option, but again, unless you only ever will use one account, I do not recommend filling out that section. Basically, after you do UCD REQ business unit, your name and address are there. You can just hit update and it saves your preferences. Next slide. So when you need to make a purchase that requires a purchase order, you're going to start with an email to your BOC team. Basically, you're going to, if you don't know what's needed, definitely reach out and ask. But most purchases that require a purchase order are going to need a purchase request form, a quote or a statement of work, or terms and conditions. Possibly a contracting out services form. There are quite a lot of documents and forms that are needed depending on the purchase that you're making. So if you send over some documents and something's missing, your BOC team will just let you know if you need to submit anything else. If you have an invoice that needs to be paid with a check, basically we'll need to create a requisition for a purchase order number to use. If you're paying with a card, then typically we'll just request a no cost agreement review since there's terms and conditions to be reviewed. And then you'll just reference that PO agreement number when you're reconciling your P card expense and Aggie expense. But for non-restricted purchases under $10,000 that don't have any terms and conditions for, supplies, things like that, typically we don't need a PO, just depending on your card limit, how the vendor needs to be paid, and things like that. And as a very important note there at the bottom, always be sure to make sure the PO is open before the purchase or rental happens. If you make that purchase before the PO is available, that is a confirming order and an unauthorized purchase. Next slide. All right, this is just an example of our purchase request form, all the information that's going to need to be filled out, the items, the chart of accounts, business purpose, whether or not you're paying by card, and then, of course, all of the approval signatures that are needed before sending that over to us. Next slide. On this slide, we just have a kind of a list of a lot of the punch-out catalog options. The punch-out catalog basically allows you to shop just directly on a supplier website through Aggie Enterprise. And each punch-out catalog has its own user interface, and they're maintained by the individual vendor themselves. They're always adding to the punch out. This is just an example of all the vendors that are available at the time this slide was created, but since then I know they've added more. So best practice is to use the punch out if you need any supplies or certain softwares. And if you can't get something in the punch out, that's when we'd go outside of that. But always best practice to search the punch out first before you make a purchase. Next slide. So when you want to use the punch out catalog, you're going to go to the same place when you set up your requisition preferences. You'll go to procurement and then purchase requisitions. After you click that, the next slide is going to show you what will come up. As long as you've set up your requisition preferences, this is what will show up. So you'll select your category and desired supplier. You can also search for the supplier name if you already know what you're going to use in the search bar up there. You'll go into that punch out catalog. It'll take you to their user interface. Build your cart and then go to checkout. And then once you hit that button, it will take you back to Aggie Enterprise to complete your requisition, where you'll attach your county director approval, or you can reassign to your approver. And once that's submitted, it'll route to the fiscal officer, so your BOC business partner. And then once that is fully approved, the purchase order will automatically transmit directly to the supplier to be processed, and your items will be shipped to you. Next slide. So another form of payment, or how we get payment to certain vendors, are through a non-PO payment options. And these are just some examples. I'm not going to read through all of them, but when a check request is required and can be paid by a non-PO invoice. So this is going to be for things like honorariums, refunds, travel expenses, stipends, reimbursements, things like that. And then the link to the reference is down there. This is going to be, it kind of changes all the time. So you can always access this link at the bottom if you're not sure if a non-PO payment option is available. When you do want to submit for a non-PO payment, you will use WFA, and we're going to go over that in a bit. If you go to the next slide, we'll show you what that looks like. So WFA, there's several things you can do, and one of the instances we use is for these types of check requests. You'll log into WFA, and on the left-hand side under Business Operations, you'll just click on Check Requests, and then that will take you to a form that you fill out, and that will route for approvals, and then eventually come to us here at the BOC so we can submit that for payment to the vendor. Next slide. All right, so this is just an example of how to look up certain things in Aggie Enterprise under that procurement tab. You can look up purchase agreements, purchase orders, or to see if suppliers are in the system. That's where you'll go to look up any of those things, and typically that'll take you to another screen where on the right-hand side you're going to see manage orders or manage agreements, and then it'll bring that search box up that's at the bottom where you can type in. You can search by order number, requisition number, or by the supplier if you don't have those numbers. Next slide. If you want to look up any invoices to see if they've been paid, you'll go to the Payables tab at the top. Excuse me. And click on Invoices, and then again over on the right-hand side, it's going to say Manage Invoices, or there'll be a search bar directly over there, and then you can put in your search criteria. So invoice number if you know it, just the supplier if you know it, and then that's how you can search for those. Next slide. All right, so now that we went over kind of some purchasing options in Aggie Enterprise, we're going to be going over buying cell phones for A&R use. We can just head to the next slide. So not all employees are eligible for a cell phone. These are the criteria that constitutes the need for a cell phone. So if you travel, if your work location, where you're in the field or at different job sites where electronic communication is not readily available, if you need to be available for emergency response, or if you're just required by your department to be accessible at all times. Any of these or all of these constitute the need for an A&R cell phone. Next slide. So to route through approvals, excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little bit. County employees need the approval of the county director. Admin would need their approval from their department director, and then the directors need approval from the AVP. And you would get this by filling out the G46 eligibility form. There is an exception that academic and CES employees do not need to fill this form out. Next slide. Once that is done, you're going to decide which provider you want to go with. We have two options, Verizon or AT&T. They're very comparable on pricing. We at A&R manage the Verizon, and UC Davis manages the AT&T. Billing is manually processed through P-card and Aggie expense reconciliation for Verizon. But if you go with AT&T, that's done as a recharge on campus, which will just show up on your ledgers. If you choose Verizon, since we manage that, those devices can ship to you within just about 2 business days. If you decide to go with AT&T, we do have to wait for campus approval and all that, so it can take a few days. They're usually fairly quickly, but it is a bit longer to receive your device. Next slide. So when you decide you need a cell phone, you're going to be filling out the G46 eligibility form. Also fill out the G46 agreement form, and then you'll fill out a purchase request form. I showed an example earlier of what that looks like, just to show the service provider, chart string, your preferred area code, shipping address, and then the model of the device. And then you'll just submit that to your business partner team for processing. One thing to note is when you're getting a cell phone, it cannot be the newest model that's out that year. I think right now it's the iPhone 17. So if you wanted an iPhone, you would have to get the 16 or older. I believe it requires AVP approval if you wanted to try and get around that requirement. Next slide. So this next slide is kind of going over what that G46 agreement is and what that entails. And basically it is stating that the university will provide electronic resources to employees that fit the descriptions listed on slide 2. And permitting that these devices are used primarily for university business. And it's basically you agreeing that any personal use of this device is incidental in nature because providing electronic devices for personal use is considered an employee benefit, and the IRS would define that as imputed income, and it would be required to be reported as such. So it's important that these G46 agreements are filled out when you're needing a work cell phone. Next slide. So for tablets and MiFi devices, these do also fall under the G46 agreement. So if you're purchasing those even in punch out, you do want to include that G46, whether or not they have a data plan. If a data plan is needed, then you would just reach out to the BOC team for approval and purchasing as if it was a cell phone. But if you don't need a data plan, all devices without service should just be purchased via punch out, and then you'll attach the approvals and G46 agreement. If you're wanting to get something like that outside of punch out, then you would just need an approved justification for the reason you're not using punch out. For some reason, if something was a lower price outside of punch out or the product that you need is just not available in punch out. Next slide. So if you have an electronic device provided by A&R and you are leaving, it is your responsibility to turn over the phone to either to the county office or to the BOC upon separation. If you do want to keep your phone number, you can. You would just then assume financial responsibility. And if you know you're going to be leaving and you have that device, just reach out to your business partner team as soon as you know, just to arrange a smooth transition, because some of these things can take a bit of time. Next slide. Okay, so next thing we're going to go over is new supplier setup or new vendor setup if you're going to be working with a vendor that is not in the system. So basically this would be if your purchase requires a PO or agreement review, if you have a payment for a stipend or an award, if there's a supplier that used to be active, perhaps back in KFS and is no longer active in Aggie Enterprise, or if the supplier you're paying only accepts check, ACH, or wants to sign up for Payment Plus, that is when we would need to make sure a supplier is in the system. Next slide. So how we do this is via a system called PaymentWorks. It's a supplier portal. It kind of streamlines the onboarding process. So how this works is if you realize you're going to be working with a vendor that's not in the system, you'll need to reach out to your BOC team and provide the vendor's email, and then kind of what you're needing to work with that supplier for. And then the BOC team will initiate an invite through PaymentWorks. And once the vendor desk approves that, the supplier will complete the online enrollment form and they will register themselves in PaymentWorks. Once they submit their registration, that routes to the vendor desk for review. And then once the vendor desk reviews and approves them and then officially onboards them, the requester and the supplier will be notified when they're an active vendor in the system. Do note that this process can take up to 3 weeks or more, and that is for various reasons. Either you're working with a vendor that is not super responsive to email, takes them a while to get this done. Say they submit registration and there's an issue with some of their tax documentation or payment remittance info. There are a lot of reasons that these can be delayed. So as soon as you know you need to work with a vendor that's not in the system, you want to make sure you're reaching out to your BOC team so we can get them in the system ASAP. So just something to keep in mind. Next slide. So Candex is another system that just started. Well, it's been about a year now, although it seems like just yesterday. This is a new system for like one-time payments. We used to have to register honorarium and 4-H scholarship recipients as a vendor in the system, but now that we have Candex, they would just go through Candex. They don't need to be set up. So basically, you'll submit a check request in WFA, so because it's one of those non-PO check request payment instances. And that will route to us at the BOC. And once we see that it's a one-time payment, like an honoraria or scholarship stipend, then we would use the Candex punch-out catalog. We do need to have the recipient's email address. That is required for Candex. And then we'll put in all the information to create that requisition. Once that's approved, a PO will be created. And then the recipient will receive an email from Candex saying that they need to accept and register to receive their payment. It is very important that if you are going to be paying individuals like this, that you notify them that they will receive that email and further action is needed from them for them to receive their payment. The default is going to be via direct deposit. They are going to enter their own banking information in Candex and upload their W-9 and all of that. They can email Candex to request a check if they do not prefer direct deposit. So that is an option as well. And the next slide, this is just going to show you kind of what that email is going to look like when they receive it. So you can always keep a copy of this slide if you're going to be doing those types of payment requests. So you can show this to your individual saying, hey, if you receive this, this is legitimate, and this is how you accept your payment. This is what it will look like. And next slide. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be going over is our WFA, our workflow automation system. This is what that homepage is going to look like. We're going to be going over kind of when to use it, and the link is right there, so you can save that when you receive these slides. I will say that WFA can be a little bit picky when you, excuse me, when you log in. Sometimes you have to try a different browser. Sometimes you have to hit the login button a few times, but then it should let you in. Next slide. All right. Oh, yes, we have that info there. So yeah, clear your history settings, try different things, and then it should let you log in. This is going to give you access to various forms for HR, us at the BOC, contracts and grants, risk and safety, and IT. Next slide. All right, so when you log in to WFA, this is what you may see. You probably won't have all of these check requests sitting there. That's just what ours typically look like. But how you navigate it, you're just going to go over to the left-hand side and click the plus button next to the service you need to work with. So, for example, if you're doing a check request, you need to click on Business Operations Plus, and then click on the check request form and fill that out. Next slide. So if you're accessing WFA for any other departments like HR, contracts and grants, risk and safety, these are the types of things that are the types of forms for routing and approval for these services. So data change requests, flexible work arrangements, alcohol permit, equipment intake requests, these types of things. That's just what an overview of the other departments that use WFA. Next slide. So the main things that we use WFA for are for unauthorized purchases, or otherwise known as a confirming order, check requests, and then funding change requests. Next slide. And the next few slides is just going to show you what those forms look like in WFA. So if you have an unauthorized purchase, this is what that form will look like. There's a bit more to it as well as you scroll down, but this is just the top part. Over on the right-hand side, depending on whatever form you choose, you're going to see the approval routing. So these unauthorized purchases always ultimately end up with the controller who either approves or denies these sorts of things. Next slide. Okay, so this is what the check request form looks like, and these are going to be for those non-PO check requests or non-PO invoice payments. Again, your routing's on the right-hand side, and then over on the left in that box, we just have an example of what types of payments you'd be doing if you filled out one of these forms. Next slide. And then here's just an example of a funding change request and how that form looks. Again, routing's on the right-hand side. All right, so any questions about anything I sent so far, feel free to pop those in the chat. And then next I'm going to be going over statement of cash collections. All right, so we can just head to the next slide. So basically back one. Statement of cash collections are basically going to be going over all deposits that you do within your unit or the county office. Can you go back a couple? Sorry. I think back one more. Yeah, perfect. So basically all bank deposits submitted to us at the BOC for processing. So these are going to be for donations, even in-kind donations for income, like say from plant sale or publication sales or reimbursements. And on the right-hand side is just a example of what the SCC form looks like and all the info that's needed when you submit those. We did just recently in the fall come up with a standardized naming convention for naming your SCCs over on the top right-hand side, that SCC number. It's going to be your location code, the 2-digit fiscal year, and then the month created. So for an example, ALAM refers to Alameda County. We're currently in fiscal year 25-26, so we're going to put 26. And then dash 09, that would be your first deposit for September, and then 01 just refers to the number of deposits you've done. So ALAM 260901 would be the first deposit for September. If they did another one in September, it would be ALAM 260902. And then, for example, DIEG, that would be for San Diego County, 260802. That would mean that's the second one they submitted for August. We do have a whole SOP on this, which goes into more detail, which I believe will be in the resources section as well. Excuse me. So the natural accounts that you're going to use just refer to what type of deposit it is. It's always going to be 480000 for gifts and donations, or miscellaneous fees if you have like registration fees that you're collecting, or 440009 for other income like a plant sale or a publication sale. Next slide. All right, so for donation SCCs, there's quite a lot that is required. So of course the SCC form, we also need a tender of gift form, a copy of the check with a routing number redacted, the deposit receipt. We do need a 700U form if it's a donation for a specific research project or specific PI. We do need a UDEV form if the donation is $5,000 or more. And we here at BOC handle that step, so you don't have to worry about that. We work directly with development to get those UDEVs done. If you're submitting multiple different donations on one SCC and one deposit, we also need a various donor sheet. We need an acceptance letter with tax info. It can be signed by the CD if it is under $20,000. If the donation is $20,000 or over, or if it is for the CD, then development has to be the one to generate and sign that acceptance letter. And again, we would handle that step at the BOC directly with development if that's the case. Next slide. Okay, so this is just an example of what the 700U form and the UDEV form looks like. Next slide. This is just an example of what an acceptance letter template and the tender of gift form look like. The acceptance letter template we can always send to you if you need a copy. Most office managers are going to have this readily available. We just want to make sure that it has the kind of tax ID, tax language there at the bottom of the letter when that's sent out. Next slide. All right, and then for income and reimbursement SCC types, we need a little bit less. We just need the SCC form, deposit slip or receipts, a cash or check log, and then a picture of the check or checks with the routing numbers redacted, of course. And then you'll submit that to the BOC for processing. The only thing that is different, excuse me, the only thing that is different is that if it's a reimbursement, we do need to have the transaction listing report to accompany the packet because we need to see the natural account for where the original expense hit for what's being reimbursed. One thing I want to mention for deposits is that when you are submitting an SCC, we want to make sure it's for only one type per packet. So if you have income and donation, those need to be two separate SCCs. We cannot combine them on one SCC. Same for income and reimbursement, needs to be two separate. You can have multiple incomes on one SCC and multiple donations on one SCC, but you cannot combine them. Well, if that happens, we will have to send it back and have you separate those out. And that is it for my section. The next section, I'm going to hand it over to Rosemary, who's going to be talking about UCC Advisor Support Funds. Thanks so much.
Hello. Like Caitlin said, I'll be going over Advisor Support Funds. So this information would only pertain to those that are hired in an academic position and specifically a position of cooperative extension advisor. So what I'm going to be going through is reviewing centrally funded support funds, and those include advisor support, advisor startup, and academic salary cost recovery, or for short, it's ASCR. It's what we kind of use the acronym for that. And the purpose of these funds, who is eligible, the allocation amount, timeframe, and process, and also go through some allowable and unallowable uses. Next slide. Okay, so for advisor support, the purpose of these funds are provided to enhance the advisor's ability to carry out their job responsibilities and for professional development. Who's eligible are centrally funded cooperative extension advisors, excluding grant-funded and research extension center or REC directors. The allocation amount is $2,000 per advisor on an ongoing basis. This past fiscal year and this fiscal year, A&R was able to provide an additional $2,000 per advisor of advisor support funds. And the allocations are determined by the FTE that the advisor's position is supported on A&R Central or permanent funds. So the time frame would be 1 year on a fiscal year basis, and there's no extensions allowed in these funds. And you may hear about these funds and referred to as PDSL funds. That's what they were formerly known as. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the process for advisor support, resource planning and management, or RPM, is there are central budget office, and they will allocate funding to each advisor's GL project within their financial department. Funds are available at start of the fiscal year. BOC works with RPM to fund any new advisors that are hired during the fiscal year. So advisors hired in April and May will receive a prorated allocation. And then any advisor hires in June will not receive funding for that current fiscal year. So the chart string segments for the ongoing advisor support funds will look like this. The 3310 is always the A&R entity. And then these funds are 21050 fund source. And then they would use their financial department, the natural account, 62 for the purpose, the advisors program. So each advisor is assigned a specific program. So this refers to like their discipline or expertise that they're hired for. So you might see a program of PPS, which is for plant production systems. So advisors that are hired for that specific discipline. And then the advisor's GL project. So each advisor is assigned when they get hired. A GL project is created for them. So it starts with GL, and then the first 4 characters is the for their county. So ALAM is for Alameda. And then the last 4 digits are typically their hire date. So if somebody, say, was hired today, it would be 0505. It would be the last 4 digits. And then 200538 is the activity code that's used for the ongoing advisor support funds in the chart string. And then for the chart string segments for the additional advisor support funds, again, the entity is 3310. These funds are 19976 funds. And then again, financial department, natural account 62, and there's no program code that is used with these additional funds. And then the advisor's GL project, and then a different activity of 900173. And then just a note that allocations are adjusted for those advisors that have split funded appointments and not a full FTE on central funds. Okay, next slide. Okay, so some allowable uses for advisor support funds: travel and registration expenses for professional meetings and conferences, travel for field visits or meetings with clientele. They can also do a prepayment of registration or transportation expenses for conferences occurring early in the following fiscal year. They can use these funds for safety equipment or attire, which includes protective gear. They can also use these funds for logo wear when the purpose is to identify personnel as part of a UCCE program. Membership fees for professional societies, and then there's some other allowable uses there. So some of the unallowable uses for advisor support is no international travel expenses, no entertainment or group meal expenses, no facility related improvement expenses. So no construction, repairs, maintenance, or decorations, and no furniture. And then there's, again, some other unallowable uses for advisor support funds. Next slide. Advisor startup. So these funds are to support the development of the advisor's UCCE program and to purchase initial technology needs and office supplies. Funds should also be used for the advisor to conduct a needs assessment for the advisor to understand their job responsibilities and determine the focus of their position. So who's eligible is newly hired, centrally funded CE advisors. Allocation amount is $10,000. The time frame for these funds, allocation is completed within first month of hire. Funds are available for 3 years after hire date and expire that fiscal year. Any remaining balances are returned to ANR effective June 30 of the expiring year. Extension requests require a budget proposal and formal approval. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the process for advisor startup, notification is emailed to newly hired CE advisors once the advisor GL project is active with the allocation amount and the chart string to use for the funding. BOC requests funding allocations from RPM. Funds will be allocated to advisors GL project and should be completed within first month of hire date. So here's the chart string for advisor startup funds. These are 19978 funds, so that's the fund source. And again, financial department, natural account 62. No program code is used, so the 000 default program would be used. The advisors GL project and the activity for startup is 2012. Okay, next slide. Allowable uses for advisor startup is to purchase new computer software and or research and extension equipment or furniture, fund startup research costs, support training and or professional development activities, support travel expenses associated with advisor CE program. So some unallowable uses for startup is no international travel expenses, no personal items, no recognition gifts for employees, volunteers, or clientele, no employee morale functions. And then here's the link here for state general funds, some additional restrictions using these types of funds. Okay, next slide. Okay, academic salary cost recovery. Okay, provides an opportunity for advisors to use centrally provided funding for research and our program costs when a contract or grant salary and benefit replaces their state salary and benefits. The recovered state salary is returned to the advisor for research and program support. ASCR must be planned at the award proposal stage and approved by UC A&R Office of Contracts and Grants, or OCG. So who's eligible for ASCR funds are centrally funded cooperative extension advisors. The allocation amount is determined by percent of the advisor's effort on grant. The advisor recovers the salary savings. The benefit savings remain with UC A&R. Okay, the time frame allocations are processed up to 3 times during the fiscal year after the salary has posted to the grant project. Salary savings funds are available for the advisor to use for up to 2 years. Next slide. Okay, and here's the process with ASCR funds. When the advisor submits a grant proposal to A&R's OCG, the advisor or PI requests ASCR. If grant project is awarded, OCG indicates on the good news letter, or we refer to them as GNL, it's the same as an award letter, that ASCR is approved. BOC receives copy of GNL and updates the advisor's payroll funding to charge their effort to the sponsored project chart string. ASCR allocations will post to advisor's GL project with activity 26 EXPS. And that started with this fiscal year. And the activity will change for each fiscal year. So any salary savings or ASCR funds that were received prior to this fiscal year, those posted to the advisor's Aggie Enterprise faculty project with the appropriate task number. And then notifications will be sent to advisor when allocations have been posted. And then here's the chart string, what it looks like for ACR funds. So these funds are 19978 funds. And again, the advisor would use their financial department, the natural account of the expense, and 6.2, the 000 default program, and add the advisor's GL project, and then 26 EXPS for any allocations for this fiscal year. Okay, next slide. Okay, so some allowable uses for ASCR funds is to fund temporary support staff to assist the A&R academic with research activities or to develop and or teach programs. Funds for additional travel, and this would include international travel, training, and or professional development activities. They can also use it for electronic devices, computers, printers, cameras, and including their cell phone and cell phone service, program support supplies and resources, and for business meeting expenses. Some unallowable uses, no entertainment that would involve an expense for alcohol or staff morale function. No personal items, no recognition gifts for employees, volunteers, or clientele. And again, there's a link there for that lists additional restrictions with using state general funds. Next slide. Okay, and if this information is posted on the BOC website under the fund management menu, and the link is here. You can also contact me directly. My email is there, or you can reach out to your BOC business partner. I think that's it. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for us before we end?
You said we were gonna get emailed all the links and slides, right?
Yep, I think Elizabeth
Perfect.
sends those out as soon as we're done, maybe later today or tomorrow. Do you know, Elizabeth, about how long? Yeah,
Gotcha.
she'll send that over. And then, yeah, within the PowerPoint is going to be like all of the links that are actually on there that you can click on and everything.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
I think that's all my questions for today.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.